Righto everyone, hello, welcome back to another video of the Mirage. We're going to continue on from where we left last week with our IFR circuits and hopefully try and do one fully correctly with no mistakes this time. The Mirage is a bit of a funky aircraft and you sort of have to use the synthetic runway really or things stop working. I don't know whether that's the Mirage or the way it's implemented in DCS. It's not really well maintained, but you know, it might be a bug, it might be completely true, but we will have to keep that synthetic runway on, but we're going to obviously try and work with just our ILS and our TACAN systems today, just to try and get our skills up in those areas, even though we're not really able to get rid of them completely, as well as the fact we don't have a slip indicator in the Mirage, which is a bit of a nightmare, so we don't really know how far off we are to either side of the runway, so the angle that we're coming in at, it's a bit of a nightmare. So we do need that synthetic runway, especially for our end lineup, but we're going to try and do the circuit anyway. We're going to try and do it with as little as we can through the actual waypoint navigational aids, and yeah, see how it goes. Apart from that, we're going to see and get started right now. So we've got our waypoint 5 set up as our backup waypoint just in case, and for now we're just going to ensure that everything here is in the normal correct modes. We need to set our TACAN first, ILS first off, which is going to be 110.30 for our ILS, which will then obviously allow us to line up on the runway. We're going to just test that works, but that moves across the screen, and then those both move across the screen. Okay. Then we've got our TACAN obviously, which is going to be 25 X-ray, so we're just going to plop that one up there and one down there onto 25 X-ray. That's on transmit receive. This can go to standby. We're going to button that on. Our IFF is on. Everything here is already set up anyway, and we're going to pop our bingo fuel down to 800 kilograms of fuel. We're also going to set this here to our TACAN, so we're pointing to our TACAN station. That works because it's pointing forward, and we're now just going to set up our altitude stuff. We're going to set up our min-alt, which is going to be a nice, we're going to actually set that today. It's 1,400, so we know when we go through that ceiling we'll get a pull-up arrow. We want to try and stay at 1,500, so this 1,400 is if we're really messed up. Actually, maybe in that case we'll set it at 1,450 then. So we're going to try and go as close to possible as we can to perfect. So we're going to pop that back up to the rad setting again on here, and that shows a H, and then we're going to turn on our radar altimeter, which shows us 0 then now. So that is all set up and lovely. Our ADI is pointing to the horizon, that's pointing to the horizon. We're just going to set this to exactly 0 feet on our altimeter. This is all in the correct spot, that's in the correct spot. Everything here looks all nice and lovely. Our lights are on landing mode, and we can then turn on our radar, turn on our radios, and pop our terrain scanning radar on. Okay, so I think we're all ready to go now, which is lovely. So we're just going to push forward on the power to a taxi speed of 65% of our RPM, and just before we go we're going to check our air brakes travel down, and control wipeout. We can just attest to the fact that on that screen there to the side down here that they are moving. So let's get going onto our runway. 13 right. So obviously it's about 12 due to magnetic variation on our TACAN screen here we get from the true and normal north. So which this points to. This sort of points to the normal as opposed to the true, but the runway headings are on 13. So we're going to be on about 12 today. It's a bit complex, but as long as you know we're looking for about 12.5. Okay, so we're nicely lined up there. As you can see, we're on about 12 as opposed to the 13, which is the runway. So we're going to be looking for 30 as our reciprocal today. Now we're lined up, we're all nicely lined up. We're going to just press forward on our power, see if it holds up to 75% RPM. Lovely. And when we're ready, we're going to release the brakes and go full reheat up into the sky, fighting the crosswind, which I think is about 13 knots coming from south to north. Okay, brilliant. Brakes released and power comes on. Okay, now find the rudder just to keep us on centre line, and up at 140 to get a nice T-bar angle of attack, and gig comes up by 250. As we just keep our AOA coming up nicely, there we go. And we're going to drop this down to 5 degrees climb. And pass through 300 knots. And we're going to level off at 1,500 feet. There we go. And try and get back onto 300 knots now. Tap the air brake then if that's refusing to go down. I think we've got a bit of wind. Keeping our altitude steady. Right, okay, now we've got everything set up and steady. We're going to start our nice turn, which is going to be onto our heading of 30 as we said before. So we're going to do that at a nice 45-degree angle of bank, and we're going to do that now. Just holding our angle of bank there nicely, making sure that we let off a bit of pressure on the stick, or forward on a bit of pressure on the stick, just to keep ourselves at a nice 1,500 feet. We're a little bit high now, it's at 20, so we've just got to be careful on what we're doing. We're staying at 1,500 for our height. Okay, as we're just watching our heading tape tick round, we're going to wait for 30 on the heading tape, trying to keep on 300 knots. We're just also checking our compass to confirm that that is the case, so we're just ticking around slowly to 30. Our heading is the reciprocal of obviously of our runway, which is 13. A little bit of height required now, and as we just come round, now we're going to level off at 30. Look at that. Perfect on a little bit of the deviation, obviously, that was to the right. We're going to try and keep our altitude perfect. We went down a little bit, but I'm allowing about 50 feet on either side today, because obviously we're flying up and down everywhere in this turbulence, so you know it's probably a bit of a given. As you can see, the actual flight path markers are showing that we're decreasing speed, but we're not. So we're also just going to set this to 500 feet, so we know that we're not going to hit anything today, and obviously keeping ourselves at 1,500 feet barometric. Okay, so now we're going at 300 knots, and so we know that we're going to pass 5 miles every minute at this speed, nautical miles. So once we get a beam, we're going to wait here till this gets to this to the complete perpendicular point, and which it's just ticking over to, and then we can start our stopwatch, and we wait for two minutes, and then we'll have passed 10 miles. So as we come into here this now, we're just turning on our stopwatch for that perpendicular point. We've just got our pull-up arrow, which shows that obviously we're encountering some of the mountains that are below us, which make this a little bit harder, and why I'm using the radar altimeter here, you know, just to confirm that we're all good. We are obviously still at a nice 1,500 feet on our barometric altimeter though, which is the one we're using today, and we're going to try and keep that as close as we possibly can. We've got some funny business going on with our ILS system, so we've obviously got to keep that running nicely. We don't want that to get out of hand. If that gets out of hand, we'll have to switch over completely synthetic, which we don't really want to do today. Everything looks fine for now though. We're just going to turn on our ILS noise, so we know if we actually have it, and we're just going to lower that a little bit actually, it's a bit annoying. Try and keep ourselves at 300 knots and 1,500 feet the best we can whilst we're still doing this. It's a little hard to commentate everything I'm doing, and I'm probably going to make a few little mistakes in the commentary because it's obviously quite complex. So we're just obviously watching that. That TACAD says we're about 7.6 miles away at the moment. We've hopefully on here we are exactly 7.5 miles now because we kept our speed. We're just checking here. We should turn before this mountain comes. We're not going to clear it at this current time, so we're just going to obviously have to wait. And if it worst comes to worst, we've got about 2.5 miles yet, and so obviously that's about 5 miles away, so we're good at the moment. Our ILS is all set, everything here is set, and as we just come across into this point here, we now know we can start our turn. So we're going to do 45-degree angle of bank again. Just try and keep it roughly based off of that, you know. As we keep this tracking round. Keeping everything nice and on speed. Just pop our route desired on so we know exactly whereabouts we are in relation to this runway. Keeping ourselves ticking round until we get onto our heading tape here, nicely onto our runway, which is on 1213, and just level off about here then. Okay, we are quite lined up. Look, on our ILS we are practically on it, so we're going to just come a little bit to our right. A little bit more, allow ourselves to just slot in here. Okay, keeping our speed and everything. Now we can come back, obviously back round. We'll line that up on there as well so we know exactly how everything is looking. Okay, so now we can turn it on our approach mode, get our seat nice and working. And we've just passed through our 7.5 mile mark, so we're going to just put our air brakes on, slow the jet down a bit to hopefully about 2 to 5 knots, so we can get out our gear, and then everything should start going. We're just obviously using our ILS at the moment, so we're watching the ILS meter climb down. Okay, air brakes can come off. We've passed below our gear threshold, so we can have our gear out as well now. Power might need to come on to just supplement the fact that the gear is coming off, and we've matched them to the correct points. Our ILS is showing that we're on now, and we just need to come down a little bit. Small corrections whilst we've got this, whilst we're using the little yellow lines for our ILS as opposed to the synthetic runway, which we can see at the front here. Our approach mode is showing that we're still a little fast, so we're going to just obviously bring our air brakes out again now. Keeping this running at the exact same speed we need. Air brakes still travels. And okay, that has come off where we need to be. So we just need to be very careful now about where we're actually travelling. We've passed into our speed. Air brakes can come off because we are at 160, whereabouts we need to be. So we're just going to obviously come down a little bit to match ourselves with our ILS. Matching ourselves on. Oh, this is perfect now, so we're going to pull up a little bit just so we can counteract that. Everything else is coming down there now. ILS is showing that it's in its final stage with beep. A little bit of power needs to come on. We need to go a little bit higher, the ILS is saying. And as we come down through, we're just going to keep it a nice 100 feet. First visual of the runway. As we're coming into the flare, as we come into 50, 40, 30. 20, just idling it in, and last second we're going to kick and cut power as we get down onto the runway. Little massive crosswind, so we missed our centre line. Just holding the nose, the air brakes can travel as they come up. Holding the nose until we get to 100, where we can slowly let the nose down and put out our parachute. Massive crosswind, so it's quite hard to keep it running completely clean in the middle of the runway. And parachute is out now. There you go, parachute and air brakes. And our nose wheel steering is on, so we've just passed into our nose wheel steering range. So let's just turn that off. Turn that on again, so we've now got nose wheel steering authority. Air brakes can come off as we're getting a little bit of power on to get us off the runway. And yeah, so we're going to hopefully get onto our taxiway now on our left, as we're just keeping ourselves tracking down the runway with our nose wheel steering as opposed to anything else. We'll keep the chute on and cut it once we get onto the taxiway so that we keep the runway clear. As for everything else, we'll turn off the annoying beeping. And we've got our taxiway marker there on the left, so we know that we can start turning now. There's our staging area as well, and yeah, onto our taxi. Okay, we're just going to stop on the taxiway. Won't carry on any further. Around the corner. And we're just going to wait here. Or hopefully someone to guide us in from that point, because the visibility is terrible. Handbrake can come on. And yeah, that is us done. Cut the chute, if that's not happened already. Yeah. There we go, cut chute. Okay, and then obviously now we can shut down our jet. Right everyone, thanks for watching. Hopefully it's been able to show you some of the skills that the Mirage has for its ILS attack and landings. We did have a little bit of use in the synthetic runway at the last stages of that because the ILS was a little bit of messed up there. We were watching the altitudes that came through and called out our last 100 feet and then all the rest of the altitudes coming down. We tried staying on speed as much as we can. We did slip a little bit slow at one point, which was a bit unfortunate, but apart from that everything else went quite smoothly. We captured the ILS glide slope quite well. We did use the route desired mode using the waypoint, but we weren't specifically using it as much as we were using the little vertical yellow bar on the ILS. It was sort of a backup to just check that that was correct, which in the Mirage, since you have no slip indicator, you have to use those two as a reference of each other. And that's all the things that I think were slightly different. Not I suppose cheating on the use of the two navigation aids we wanted to use, but you know, I think for the most part everything went well and we got a good use out of our TACAN and ILS and used them correctly to obviously land. Alright, thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.